Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Beatles, arguably the greatest band ever, but it would be a bit boring just doing a top 10 best songs from the Fab Four, and for every 10 epic tunes, there must be at least one not quite so good. Who am I kidding? They're the goddamn Beatles. We are going to try and count down our top 10 worst songs from Joan, Phil, Greg and Bingo. We may need some help. I've got a feeling Neil is going to give us some Beatles facts. Don't let me down, you fool on the hill. Ooh!
Thank you very much, Pav. I do indeed. So here we go. It was Stuart Sutcliffe, John's art school friend, who was drafted in as the bass player, who came up with the name The Beatles.
You're daft, yeah.
So keen were they to distinguish themselves from the Shadows that the Beatles didn't use Fender guitars until 1965.
You're daft, yeah.
During a 56-night residency in 1960 at Hamburg's Kaiserkeller, the band played every day, 7:30 to 9 p.m, at 9:30 to 11 p.m, 11:30 to 1 a.m, and 1:30 to 2 a.m, 7 days a week. The Beatles were famously turned down by Decca record label and instead signed for Parlophone. The band's publisher sent an anonymous tape from their later sessions to Decca to see if the label would be fooled into making the same mistake again. It wasn't. In the NME in the early 1963, the boys listed their ambitions. Lennon to write a musical, McCartney to have my picture in the Dandy, Harrison to design a guitar, and Starr to be happy.
Stop it, you disgusting middle-aged squares.
Lennon once claimed that Ticket to Ride was one of the first heavy metal records because of its use of loud amplified guitars and drum sound.
This happened once. What a joke, you know.
McCartney claimed Yesterday came to him in a dream as he finished as a finished melody, fully formed. He asked friends, "Is this by me or did someone else write it?" Almost as if he discovered it. It was originally called Scrambled Eggs.
You're daft, yeah.
The Beatles spent longer making Yellow Submarine than they took to record their entire debut album.
This happened once. What a joke, you know.
Lennon wanted Hitler to be included in the Sea of Faces on the Sgt. Pepper album cover, but was overruled at the last minute.
I love her.
And the BBC banned I Am the Walrus, not for its anti-establishment tone, but because it contains the word knickers.
Stop it, you disgusting middle-aged squares.
Is that it?
That's it!
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Neil. Now, originally, I wanted to do the top 10 best Beatles songs, but our guest, ladies and gentlemen, first let me introduce our guest. He loves pancakes, has a great head of hair, is extremely wealthy, hates Josh Gad, loves his pugs and the Queen. It's two-time Radio Hall of Fame legend, dare I say it, the GOAT. Ladies and gentlemen, live from the capital is Gene Bean Baxter. Hello, sir.
Hello, sirs. How are you? By the way, outstanding intro. Enjoyed it very much. Your show is already so much more professional than the one that I do. But I have to ask, Neil, why have I never heard of this band, the Beatles? They sound fascinating.
Well, I believe they come from a little place called Liverpool.
Well, their records never made it to America. I'll tell you that, because I certainly would have recognized some of those songs.
Check them out. They do a good diddly.
Okay. All right. Fantastic.
The one thing I will say, I mean, anybody that knows Bean knows that he does this amazing English accent. And if anybody has heard his English accent, will know it literally sounds like Paul McCartney.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've got no accent, guys. When I was getting ready to move back here to the United States, and I address this to your many, many listeners who have no idea who the hell I am or why I was invited. But I was born here. I grew up on and off here, but mostly lived around the world with a military family. And a couple of years ago, my wife and I decided to move back here to the birthplace, to the motherland, the UK. And I honestly thought that if I were back here and among my people again, that my accent, which I did used to have as a child, would slowly return. I honestly thought I would just pick it up. If for no other reason, you'd be surrounded with people and you would start to change your inflections and whatnot. But I sound exactly the day as I got off the boat, man. I don't feel like I've gotten any more English since I've been back here the last almost 2.5 years. I'm sorry to say. I wish I had a cool accent like y'all do.
Yeah. So what accent did you have? Where were you from originally then?
Well, we lived in London. We lived in
right.
Islington. Yeah, I was born in Ruislip, but we lived in Islington. And then I don't remember exactly. We moved away when I was very young and then moved back again for a couple of years when I was in school. But I don't exactly know where. Unfortunately, a lot of that generation of family is gone, and I didn't get to them to get that information in time to be able to use it now. So I don't know. But it is great to be back here in my homeland for sure.
Good. Even though you do still say math sometimes on your podcast, which
I make occasional errors. Yeah, sure. We all do. We all do. None of us are perfect.
No, come on, Pav, give him a break.
I'm sorry. No, it's just that when I'm sat there working and I listen to the podcast and he'll say about how English he is, and then he'll say math, and I think
I'm not as English as I'd like to be, but you know what? I'm a hybrid. I got to accept that. I'm 50-50. So I'm happy with that. I love America as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what about English things, Bean? Have you picked up, are you a fan of Marmite?
I've not had it. Tragedy? Tragedy?
Yeah. I mean, you either love it or hate it.
No, I hate
a fan.
it.
Pabs hates it.
It's the devil's.
This is how Australians talk about Vegemite: is you're either hard in or hard out. There's nobody who goes, take it or leave it, right? Sounds like Marmite's the same way.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Tea, a good cup of tea.
Well, I've always been a tea fan, and I have one right here in front of me. I love it.
Oh, there we are.
I will tell you, there's a lot, and Pavo knows this from listening to the show. There's a ton of food I really, really miss from America. But if I were to ever leave England, you know what I would miss the most from British cuisine is the nut loaf. There's no nut loaf equivalent in the United States, for instance. Because I don't eat cows and pigs and sheep and goats. I don't eat any of those. So the nut loaf has become my Sunday roast staple, and it's phenomenal. I've never had a nut roast that I haven't loved, and that's not something I'd be able to find if I left the UK. So that's my number one, I gotta say.
There you go. But so you equate that with your pancakes that you miss from America, don't you?
Yeah, same sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. Every single place you live in the world is going to have things you love about it, things you don't, advantages, disadvantages. No place has everything. You're always going to be missing something no matter where you are.
Indeed. Absolutely.
Goes with the territory.
Well, that's food talk here on our Beatles podcast. Before we actually get into the top 10, we just want to say hello to Jen Berg and to Janine Bender, who's our new Patreon toppers. So thank you very much for your support. God bless you. And look at that. I mean, I know that we have got them. They are run off from the Cup of Tea and the Chat podcast. So thank you so much. And they are going to be absolutely buzzing that they're on your episode, Bean. So
thank you very much.
They're lovely people. I'm happy to have them, and I'm happy they're with you as well.
Indeed. And we will talk a little bit about the podcast a little bit later on, but we've got business to attend to first. So top 10 worst Beatles songs. This, I have to say, without a shadow of a doubt, episode 34, I think this is the hardest one I've ever had to do, without a shadow of a doubt. I was doing my top 10 on Friday and Saturday, and you just realize that every song is great.
Wow.
And
we say that. I can think of one that I haven't met anybody that likes. Really.
No, they're worse. I mean, hopefully I'm probably being honest, but I don't know, you guys, how did you feel about compiling your top 10, Bean?
I mean, I agree. There's a reason they're the greatest band of all time, is because their level of quality is astonishing over the course of just 8 years that they were making records together. The one rule I gave myself as I sat down to make this list is that I was going to cut them some slack on early songs when their songwriting hadn't quite found their feet. When they're not even bad. They're just kind of forgettable. Maybe some of the early, some of those tracks that weren't singles from the first 3 or 4 albums are songs that you go, well, that's okay, but nothing bad. They just didn't do bad records, I don't think. Although Neil obviously disagrees with at least one, right?
Oh, I know one. Yeah.
So I do have some hits on my list of things that I think
Me too.
Maybe because they were Beatles, we accepted them, but from somebody else, we would have said, "Come on, for reals? What are you doing here?" Right? And then I have some other songs that I think just kind of represent some bad habits that the Beatles got into in sometimes, and that'll become more clear as we explain it later. But you're absolutely right; it was a very difficult list to make because almost any band in the world would be happy to have almost any of the songs that are on our top 10 lists.
Exactly, and I think that the songs on our list would be amazing songs for any other band. That's
I believe I just said almost in those exact same words the same time.
Oh God, I'm like Ali. Neil, what about you? So it was tough for you.
No, it was
Sorry,
very
Bean, you did
hard.
just exactly say that.
Yeah, it was very, very hard. I had to go through, like I always do when we come to music and things. I go back to my iTunes and look at the ones I listen to the most and had to narrow them down. I mean, I'll talk about the one that I think is an appalling song. Don't even think it really is a song, but we'll go through that one later on. But the rest, even though they're on my list, it's not that I particularly dislike them. They just come lower than other songs. That's all it is.
Yeah, I agree. Right then, Bean, shoot us off with your number 10.
Oh, what an honor to get to go first. Okay.
Absolutely.
Number 10 on my list of the worst Beatles songs of all time is Flying, which is, I believe, their only instrumental, if that sounds right to you boys. They're only instrumental. So what's kind of the point of being the Beatles if you're not going to be singing on a song? For starters, you got to take a point away for it being an instrumental. It originally started out being over 9 minutes long. Mercifully, the version that we hear on the Magical Mystery Tour is only about 2.5. So even if you don't enjoy it, it doesn't waste all day. But it's just not interesting in any way. It sounds like a classic album filler. Oh, we need an extra track. Let's just doodle in the studio for a few minutes, and whatever we record, we're going to put it out. I just have there's no use for it as far as I can tell. So that's my number 10, Flying.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and play a little bit of the song as we are talking, so that at least it gives a little bit of context. But I must admit that was one of the ones that was on my honorable mentions list, definitely, because I think after watching the Get Back documentary, and you realize just how much they messed about in the studio and just jammed, you can see how there are times they must have thought in an album, we need another song. Yeah, let's just do that. I've got one on my list that I'm sure was that. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you on that. That was one that was very, very close to my my top 10. Neil, go on then, your number 10.
Now, this one may be very controversial to a lot of people, but to me, I don't know what it is. It's just not as great as I originally thought. It's The Long and Winding Road.
Oh,
I know, and I've spoken to many people about this. And
blasphemy.
No, I know. I don't know what it is. I've got a little bit. I don't know whether it's over listening. I got a little bit bored with it. Does that make sense? When you hear a song a lot, you get bored. So that's basically what's happened. And I tend to skip it when it's on my playlist. No.
Well, there is such thing as I've heard it enough for the rest of my life. We all have those Stairway to Heaven, Hotel California type songs where we just, honestly, we're at the breaking point when they come on again. And I get it. Unfortunately, a lot of radio stations, they're not playing 200 Beatles songs. They're playing 20 Beatles songs. And the ones that are in rotation are the ones that you can get real burnt up forever.
That's right. And that, unfortunately, is what happened with that one. Now, this is, like I said before, it's not to take away what a great song it originally was. Just to me personally, I wouldn't mind if I never heard it again.
But are there some songs, especially Beatles songs, that are like indestructible, that it doesn't matter how? I mean, you said Hotel California I don't think I've ever been tired of that song. And I think Long and Winding Road for me is one of those songs that you sort of, it's just simple but brilliant. I mean, look, there's going to be songs. This is all subjective, isn't it? I mean, one of us may say, well, I love The Long and Winding Road. That would be in my top 10 of Beatles songs, I think.
I did say it would be controversial, that one.
Right off the bat, Neil.
And God hasn't struck him dead yet, so apparently it's an allowable opinion.
I think it's an allowable opinion.
It's because I haven't actually criticized the song itself. I've criticized my own relationship with it. That's what it is.
Right.
Indeed. Okay, well, my number 10 is also was a big hit. It's Paperback Writer. And I think the reason I don't like it is it's a little bit weird in its structure. It's a little bit all over the place. It doesn't, for me, have that hook that Paul McCartney songs usually have. They have one hook that will either just get the emotion going or will drag your heart into the song. That one for me just doesn't have something about it, and I don't know what it is. That one was quite easy, even though it's one of their biggest hits. It's
You
not
just
one.
hate guys trying to write a book, it sounds like.
I mean, any kind of things with books, unless they got pictures in them. I'm not interested.
Well,
Yeah,
reading is for losers. I've said it my whole life.
Oh, that's me then, because I have to read for him as well.
You do, yes, yes. You are my official reader. But there's something about it. I think it also goes with some of the other decisions that I have in my top 10. I mean, would you class this as psychedelic? It's not really it's a bit of a rocker, isn't it?
It's a rocky more, isn't it?
I think it's heading towards psychedelia, though. I think it's in that same time period where they're starting to get a little twangy. I'm sorry, I love this song.
Right. Okay. There you go. No, I'm okay. I'm okay as well. So that's all right. We can carry on. Okay then, Bean, you're number 9.
Number 9 is another song that I'm actually surprised. I guess this is sort of in the flying vein where they needed another track. I'm actually surprised that they let this one go because it sounds like it was made up on the spot. And I know the Beatles were notoriously fast at writing lyrics, but this one sounds like they didn't write any lyrics. It was just whatever John Lennon shouted was what ended up being the lyrics for the track. And it's from the Let It Be album. It's called Dig It. And I guarantee it's on somebody else's list. I guarantee
My number 5.
It sounds like the kind of ad-libbing that a singer does on stage as the band is winding down and he just shouts at anything. I mean, for folks who haven't heard this song, I mean, he name checks Doris Day, he shouts out the FBI and the BBC. It's just a top of mind rambling. It's not even a real song, I don't think. It's about a minute. Don't need it. That's my number 9.
Yeah, my number 5, Dig It. I just don't know. It just seems a little bit pointless.
It does. Like, how did it make the cut?
I know.
Yeah, it seems like an outtake, doesn't it? I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that we're all going to be thinking of, whether we mention it or not, we're going to be thinking of the time that we spent watching the Get Back documentary. We totally can see how something like this happened in the studio, but that's the type of thing that they usually would never think of including onto the record. But that was how loosey-goosey Let It Be ended up being, that they decided it would. It has not aged well.
No. And I think it's also one of those songs that I think if they'd had a bit more time could have changed into good song. You know, the way that like Paul McCartney would have a bit of a song and then John Lennon would say, let's have something that he could have done with that. But I agree, it's a little bit of a waste of time, but
yeah,
another album filler, I think.
It is just a filler, isn't it? It was just to make the album that much longer, isn't it?
Yeah. That's your number 5, Neil, yeah?
That is my number 5.
Okay. So go on, give us your number 9 then.
So some of the Beatles novelty records I wasn't always a big fan of. Maxwell's Silver Hammer. It's I don't know what it is about that song that I'm not a huge fan of it. Whether it's just because it's primarily just Paul McCartney, that one, wasn't it, really? Yeah, I don't know how to put my finger on the button of that. It's just another track that I will skip.
Well, let me help you, because that's my number 4, Maxwell Silverhammer.
Wow. Okay.
I have a tiny bit more affection for it, having seen Get Back, to see them actually bring in an anvil to hit with a hammer, which I thought, we're so used to these days just pulling up a sound effect on our computer, but somebody had to actually go out and find a hammer and find something to bang on in that. Ringo Starr has famously said, when asked, that that's the worst song the Beatles ever recorded. Obviously, I agree. It's in my top 10 of their all-time worst songs. You're right, Neil. It doesn't need to exist. It's one of Paul McCartney's vaudeville songs. And he was famous for, he loved doing those old-timey songs, right? Like When I'm 64 is a perfect example, right? This is not nearly as good as that. Yeah, Maxwell Silverhammer. And is it? Do you guys remember? Is it based on a true story, or did you just make it up out of whole cloth about a guy who goes around killing people with a hammer? Was there a news event associated with it at first, or no?
I really
don't know. What? I'm not sure. I'm gonna
look in my little book, but
I'm gonna have a look. I'm gonna have a look. I'm gonna Google it, because I'm pretty sure that there was some kind of story behind it. I think that was the whole point of it. But talk amongst yourselves for a second while I just have a little look.
Yeah.
I understand that it took forever to record, and it was the song that Paul was like, all right, because we saw in Get Back that sometimes they would do 50 takes of a song. And every time he would say, let's try Maxwell again, the other three would be like, oh, do we have to? Like, no one was excited about it.
No.
Paul just dragged this one across the finish line. But I think most people kind of like that in the context of Abbey Road. I don't hear a lot of hate from other people on that. Do you, Neil?
No, not really.
People seem to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't hate the track. It's just one of those tracks that it's not my sort of music.
Right.
Like you said, the vaudeville style. I mean, I love the 60 when I'm 64, as everybody does. Although in this country, it always does still remind me of Points of View. Pavel will remember that one, which was the theme tune to it, which is a bit of a shame that it's taken away from that. But yeah, Maxwell Silverhammer, I don't know. It's that part of Paul McCartney that I'm not a big fan of.
Right.
Some of the Wings song and the solo stuff that he did, he still liked to carry on doing those sort of things, and it's not my forte.
According to Wikipedia, the song is about a student named Maxwell Edison who commits murders with a hammer, but McCartney describes the song as symbolic of the downfalls of life, being my analogy for when something goes wrong out of the blue, as it does so often.
Well, that doesn't tell us whether there was a real Maxwell Edison or not.
It's not fact-based by the looks of it.
All right.
All out of Paul McCartney's pretty head, bless him. Okay, my number 9. Anybody that are Jam fans will recognize the riff from this, and it's Taxman from Revolver.
Okay.
Again, it's a bit the same reason as Paperback Writer. I'm just not sold on the whole groove of the song for some reason. I don't know whether it's because, being the age that I would have heard the Jam song start first. So I would have felt like the Beatles were ripping off the Jam because of the song. I don't know whether that's just like deep in my like subconscious, and that's one of the reasons why I sort of put the barriers up for this song. But there's nothing about that song that really makes me, and I love George Harrison songs. You won't realize this with the songs that I've picked for this top 10. My favorite Beatles song is a George Harrison song. So just to put that out there, it's not like.
Did you say you like the Jam start? I mean,
yeah, because I was big into the Jam when they were, the whole mod revival and back in the early 80s when they, I loved the Jam, but yeah, it's just something about that song that just doesn't really float my boat, as they say.
I'm a Taxman fan. It's probably not on my top 50 Beatles songs, but I like it very much. The bass line on it is killer on Taxman. I mean, Paul McCartney doesn't get, I don't think if it's possible to underestimate Paul McCartney. I don't think he gets enough credit for how great a bass player he is, and he slaps on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's another thing. We're going to reference the documentary, and rightly so many times during this podcast, but I don't think it shows you exactly what kind of a bass player he is in Get Back. Just the fact that, and again, they've been playing together, and as Neil said in the facts, playing for 7 hours in a German nightclub or whatever. They know exactly what everybody does in that band.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the greatest bass players ever, to be perfectly honest.
For sure.
McCartney. Yeah. Okay, then your number 8, please, Dean.
I don't think this one's going to be controversial. I'd be surprised if it's not on both of your lists sometimes, and it is Revolution number 9. Number 9.
That's my number 2.
Number
That
9.
might be somewhere else for me.
Okay. I'm disappointed in myself for not just putting it at number 9. That would have helped my OCD a lot.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that there may be people. It's still shocking to me, by the way, as much of a music fan as I am, and as much as a Beatles fan as I've been my whole life, that there are a lot of people, and many may be listening to this podcast, who have never listened to all the Beatles songs. They've never listened to a full Beatles album, and they may have no idea what Revolution number 9 even is. So let's try to explain it. It is not the song that you love called Revolution. That is not it, although there are 2 other versions of Revolution as well. This one is an audio montage. This is a studio trick. There is no song. There is no melody. It is little bits of music. It's sound effects. It's people talking. And I bet if I had been a teenager when the White Album came out, it would have blown my mind. I would have spent every night with my headphones on, listening to that song and smoking weed or acid or something, right? It's 8.5 minutes long, too, by the way, which is another reason why I guarantee when you guys put on the White Album, you skip Revolution #9, and that's why it's my number 8.
Yeah, it's my number 2. Very, very close to being my number 1. And exactly what you just said, Bean. I was listening to. I'm terrible with music. I'm not a connoisseur of music like you guys are. Both of you are. I'm a very lazy listener. So I will listen to the same songs. So I'm quite happy to put on a Beatles greatest hits because it's all the songs I love, all the songs I know. And I've slowly started listening to a lot of the Beatles stuff, like the actual albums from watching Get Back. And it was also that, and there was a band, I can't remember the name of the band, but they do really good versions live of complete Beatles albums.
Mm-hmm.
They don't try and look like the Beatles. They just are wonderful musicians. And I watched them on YouTube, and they did the complete White Album, and they did a version of Revolution 9, and it was like crazy because they were playing all these different bits of tape on computers and stuff, and it made me love that album even more. But it's terrible. And I find out,
but you only need to hear it once. That's the
exactly
that's the one sentence rep on Revolution #9. You've heard it once, you go, okay, that's been an experience. I won't get those 8 minutes back, but you never need to sit through it again. I'm not sure. I can't tell you the last time I heard it, honestly. And I listen to the Beatles. I can't tell you the last time I even almost was accidentally exposed to it. That's how far down in the mix it needs to be for me.
Yeah, and I found out on doing some reading up on it today, it's called musique concrete. That's the style of what that particular art form is, which I didn't know. And also I found out that Yoko Ono is involved a lot in it. So that sort of explains a lot really on that. Okay then, Neil, you're number 8, please.
Right, okay. I might well get flayed for this one as well. It's an early one of theirs. It's I Want to Hold Your Hand.
I gotta go, you guys. I can't be associated with this show.
I know.
I can't. It's my favorite Beatles song.
Is it really?
Come on.
It is my favorite. It is the encapsulation of Beatlemania. You can't hear that song without feeling joyful.
Exactly.
It's everything that was great about the leading edge of the British invasion from the Beatles. I hear 50,000 girls screaming their heads off when they go, ooh, it's amazing.
No doubt, the song is amazing. It's another one that I got very bored with because it was the only Beatles song I had growing up, if that makes sense, on my cassette that I had copied off the radio, and I used to love it back then. But now it's one of those ones when you put the top, your greatest hits Beatles, the number 1 album I like to put on, I seem to skip that track now. And again, it may be through association rather than the actual quality of the music. I'm not knocking the quality of the song at all. It's association with me. And I'm more of a fan of the later Beatles, probably 65 onwards, than the earlier stuff. I find it some of it a little bit too plinkety plonkety, if you know what I mean, in the style of music. And that doesn't always resonate well in my listening habits at my age now. So I've put it in there just because it's another track I skip, and I'm so sorry, Bean. It's not the song itself.
Pavo, try to defend your friend here. What are you going to do? Have his back. You got to try.
Defend him. I can't defend him because there's 2 of his 3 that he's done so far would be in my top 10. Honestly, I did say to you worst Beatles songs, didn't I? I didn't send you.
But good. There's no misunderstanding here. Okay,
that's what I was worried about. Because if he puts "Hey Jude" and I'm gonna have to just punch him.
No, because it's all subjective. I mean, nobody can love the same song, can they, over and over? But like I said, it's not that I dislike the song. It's that I think there must be some sort of association with it that makes me just skip it through. Probably from my childhood, the fact that I was listening to it on a grainy, crappy cassette, and it's overdone.
I had the 45. Not at the time. I wasn't of record buying age, obviously, when that song came out. I was a tiny little kid, but it was one of the Beatles 45s that I bought when I started buying records. And I played it a million times, and I fell almost equally in love with the flip side, I Should Have Known Better, which is one of my all-time favorite Beatles songs as well. I mean, you talk about bang for your 99p. That's a 45 right there.
Absolutely. And they were good for their AA sides as well, weren't they, the Beatles? They did a few of them. I think one of them might be on my... I'll have a look in a minute anyway. Okay, so my number 8 is from Rubber Soul. You Won't See Me. You talked about Plinky Plink songs, Neil. I think this is McCartney at his best doing Plinkety Plink. And I didn't realise that this is apparently about Jane Asher. I didn't realise that. Okay. He was having some trouble with Jane Asher, and so he wrote this. But it seems a little bit twee, this one, to me. It's McCartney has got different sections of his songwriting, hasn't he? He's got the orchestrated ballad. I think he was an amazing rock vocalist. I think his voice is, I mean, he's 80 odd, so of course you've got to give him a bit of leeway for that. But this one doesn't just have anything in it that I can hold on to that really sort of gets me turgid, as Bean would say. Thank you.
There are the Beatles have been covered maybe more than any other rock band. Would you guys say that's probable?
Yeah,
their songs have been thousands and thousands of times, right? And there are very few Beatles songs that when I hear the title, I think of another artist doing them. Like one is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. To me, that's an Elton John song. I think he's got the definitive take on that. And you may not know this one. I don't even know if it was a hit in our country now, but Anne Murray, the Canadian singer, Anne Murray had the big American hit with You Won't See Me. It was very common, kids, for people to cover Beatles songs because they didn't release a lot of their songs that were great as singles. So other people would mine their albums and say, ooh, there's some hits on here. I can take one. Anne Murray's version of You Won't See Me was great. And that's the one I always think of. I have got no real affection for the Beatles version, though, but it's a good song.
Was that a big hit?
Big hit in the United States, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
right. I mean, that's where they made their money, wasn't it? And getting other people to sing that. Oh, seems like Elvis, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, then, Bean, you're number 7, please.
Number 7, I am also in the Rubber Soul album for number 7 here. And this is a song that I probably would not have had a problem with 20 years ago, but it is in the list of songs that have aged poorly because they're so misogynistic. And I point you to the Rolling Stones' Brown Sugar that they no longer perform. I point you to the annual debate over Baby It's Cold Outside, which be the Christmas song that people say, well, it's a little rapey in modern terms. Run for Your Life by the Beatles. Run for Your Life is my number 7. John Lennon he wrote this song. He's singing this song. He just now, when you hear it with modern woke ears, and I don't think that's a negative. I think it's good that we're aware of these things. He sounds like a creepy stalker. I mean, he's threatening. He's following this woman. He's saying, I'd rather see you dead than to see you with another man. And I'm sorry, I can't hear a lyric like that and go, well, this is a good listen. I'm enjoying this. So Run for Your Life, my number 7.
Okay. Are you able to put it? I mean, last week we did Carry On films, and they were very much of the 60s and 70s. Right. Can you do that with songs? Can you put them and think, well, that's of its time, and maybe get over that a little bit? Can you separate the artist from the song as well?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I'm not listening to the Beatles because they have this song, if that's what you're asking. Yeah. No, I mean, what he was saying was a common feeling that people had back then. I mean, it was just we just don't treat people that way anymore. That's all. Yeah, it's definitely an artifact of its time. It's a mid-60s rock song. I get that. It gives me the willies a little bit when I hear it today. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Fair enough. Yeah,
I must admit, I don't think I've listened to that song all the way through. So I'll have to. I know it's sort of counterproductive, but I'll have to have a little listen to that to hear what it sounds like now. I'm sort of like, you piqued my interest. Go on then, Neil. You're number 7.
So this one, as we spoke about cover versions just now, and this one was ruined for me by somebody's cover. Now, I can't remember who did it, but somebody, Dawn, it's Strawberry Fields Forever. And there was a cover version, I think, of the early 90s, maybe the late 80s. And it was awful. It was god awful, but it was played and played and played until it literally, now whenever I hear the opening chords, I think of the cover version rather than the original.
Yeah, because it was more of a rave kind of version.
Yeah.
It was like
something Dawn, wasn't it? I can't think what their other first name was. But it's an absolute...
You're thinking of PM Dawn, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, that was...
It wasn't. It was like
true.
Candy Flip.
Candy Flip.
Candy Flip.
This one was not a hit in America, but I feel like I heard it too. I think I know what you're talking about. And yeah, that can definitely happen where somebody comes out with a rave version or makes a dance record out of a song you used to love. Yeah.
It was very much of the acid house time that we had in, Pav's representing with his bucket hat on now.
He sure is.
It was of that time, and it was god awful, but yet it was played almost constantly everywhere, and it's tainted my view of this song now. And alas, I've tried and tried. When I listen to Sgt. Pepper's, I leave it on and I leave it playing, but all I start thinking of, how did they ever get the license to do that? And it makes me angry almost, which is tainted.
It was Candy Flip, but you can't get it on Apple Music for some reason. Won't let you play it.
Good.
Won't let you play it. But what? So even that, because of that version, it triggers.
It's sort of PTSD. I was that traumatized by it. It was it has sullied that song for me, and in all these years, it still hasn't passed.
Wow. Another Beatles classic in your top 10 worst.
But
Beatles.
I'm not denying that.
That's right.
Not denying it.
There's no criticism of the Beatles record.
Not at all. Somebody has ruined the Beatles record for me by their own. Right.
Okay. I've got one that I think is a bit of a fan favorite that I think Susie and the Banshees did a cover of, and that's Dear Prudence.
Yes. Right. Okay.
I find this one, I don't think there's anything creepy in the lyrics. Apparently it's about Prudence Farrow, Mia Farrow's sister, I think, when they were in India, written by John Lennon. I just don't find anything that turns me on about this particular song. Any of the versions. I didn't particularly like the Susie and the Banshees version from, that must have been 80s.
Yeah.
The 80s, yeah.
I like
that would have been the first time. That would have been the first time I heard the song.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the White Album is my favorite Beatles album. I don't think we've told those stories yet about which one we love the most. And there are a lot of songs on there that are kind of in that vein, like Dear Prudence, like Julia, like I Will. John Lennon was very prolific during that time. And I like them all. I like them all. I like Dear Prudence too. I mean, it wouldn't be the toppermost or the poppermost, as they used to say about the Beatles, but it certainly wouldn't be anywhere near my bottom 20 for sure.
I have to say, I'm a bit of a fan of that. Both versions, Pav. I like
really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's fine. That's fine.
Nah,
I'm not going to get in the mood about it,
now.
Neil. I'm seeing your top 10. I'm not going to get in the mood about that when I see what your top 10 is. That's fine.
Oh, don't. It'll even get worse.
I bet it will. Being your number 6, then, please.
All right, my number 6, I could have picked a number of different songs for this one that all represent the same thing. I said earlier, at least one of the songs on my list was gonna reflect some of the Beatles' bad decisions that they made or bad habits that they had, and that was when they were churning out albums. It's hard for people to imagine now when it takes 2, 3, 4, 8, 13 years between albums. They were churning out 2.5 albums a year. It was a crazy pace that they were on. And those first few albums before they really found their legs as songwriters and started doing all originals, those first few albums are just packed with covers. And they knew how to please a crowd from all those times on stage in Hamburg and at the Cavern Club. They knew their rockers. They knew their rollover Beethovens and their long tall Sallys and their Money, That's What I Want. And they were all killer songs because the Beatles, their favorite music was what was coming out of America, especially R&B and blues songs that were coming out of America, much like the influence on the Rolling Stones as well. But once they started getting to their 4th and 5th album, they were kind of running thin on great covers. And it was almost like, I don't know. Do you guys know any other songs? So the one that I have chosen to kind of represent that is Mr. Moonlight. Now, Mr. Moonlight was a very obscure song, not a hit in America in its original incarnation by a band called Dr. Feelgood and the Interns. If you've ever even heard of them, I haven't. And it's just there's nothing interesting or exciting. It's literally an album cut filler. Mr. Moon. I could have just as easily picked A Taste of Honey, by the way, for the same reason, which is a great instrumental by Herb Alpert, but the lyric version is just terrible. Right. But that's it's a song that they knew. It's a song that they decided, hey, we can play that one. Let's play that one and put it on the album. So kind of representing the tail end of them running out of good covers, I've chosen Mr. Moonlight as my number 6.
I must admit, I was... when I was going through this a couple of years ago, I started from the very first Beatles album and went all the way through. And I was the same as like you've just said, and like Neil said earlier on, the first few albums, they sounded very samey because obviously they haven't found their feet as songwriters and stuff. And it almost it broke the, because everybody in their mind has that the Beatles are the greatest, or one of the greatest bands ever. And when I started listening to the albums one after another, I started thinking, oh my God, maybe the Beatles aren't quite as good as I actually thought they were. Then as you get to things like Rubber Soul and you think, no, actually I was wrong. And I think would it be because they had maybe 2 days to write to record the album that it ended up they just had to do what they could do to fill an album?
Yeah, I'm absolutely. I mean, they're in a pressure cooker situation. That debut album was famously recorded in 1 day, yet they still were such a great band that they were able to record Twist and Shout as the last song of the night and just blow out John Lennon's voice.
Yeah.
I thought, like I said, I'm giving them all the credit in the world for the fantastic taste they had in covers. They needed to do covers. They weren't writing songs fast enough to fill up whole albums. They can't all be great. That's a minor ding on a great band.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Go on then, Neil. You're number 6.
So it's Obla Di Obla Da.
Oh,
I've never been a huge fan of this one. It's a bit too, what's the word I'm looking for?
Great, maybe. I don't know.
Is it great? I mean, to be honest, I had a little inspirationally look on Google, and this appeared on a lot of people's worst top 10 songs, Obla Di Obla Da. And I thought, wow, there we go. I don't know. I mean, because obviously Marmalade seems to be more famous for their version than the Beatles version. I don't like Marmalade version that much either. It's one of those songs that, is it, you used the word before, is it too twee? I can't get quite a grip on it. I don't know. It's just never struck a chord with me, that song.
It's a working men's club song. It's a crushed velvet suit band playing in a smoke-filled bar with Bernard Manning as the co-host.
Yeah,
that's what it always seems to me. But it's one of those great 4-chord songs. It's one of those songs that is like the same 4 chords as nearly every other song that's great.
But to reiterate again, it's not a bad song. It's just one of these songs that I personally, it's not one that would be on my chosen Beatles playlist. It wouldn't be in my top 10 at all.
It's got that. It really does. It does stand out from some of their other songs in that interesting lilting beat. I'm not going to say it has a reggae beat, but it definitely has something going on that's a little different than all of their other songs. It kind of most reminds me maybe of the Ballad of John and Yoko, that same kind of chug, chug, chug thing. Yeah. Obla di obla da, right?
Exactly.
It's obla di obla da.
There you go. I mean, what better kind of argument to give back to you than it's obla di obla da.
It's obla di obla da. But one of the things that I love about the Beatles so much, and I don't have any particular distaste or massive affection for that song, is I don't know who else could have written that. I mean, we now are used to hearing the words obla di obla da, but it came out of somebody's head. Nobody had ever heard that expression before. I don't think. I think it's just something they made up, right? That's just how their mind worked. I mean, they're just different. They're just on another level.
I think that's it with a lot of the Beatles songs, is that nobody had heard those kind of things ever before.
Right.
And I was only thinking about this today. The episode that we did about times you go back in time, where you would go. The one thing I should have put on my top 10 is like the day that Sgt. Pepper came out, or the day that a Beatles album. The feeling it must have been that when a Beatles album came out, that you wouldn't be able to understand what it is today, because it's people.
Well, hold on. We have Right Said Fred. It's not like we don't have the modern day equivalent. All right.
I mean, I never thought of that, did I? And
but
obviously,
they only did one album, didn't they?
They only did.
I mean, we only repeated the album over and over. It made it feel like more.
Yeah, and obviously Taylor Swift as well. Now I am an official Tay-Tay fan.
Fantastic. You're a Swiftie.
I'm a Swiftie. I am
it.
a Swiftie. That'll be our next one. Bean will do top 10 Taylor Swift songs.
Top 500 Taylor Swift songs. If we're doing it right.
I'd have to start listening then, wouldn't I? Sheesh.
Dear. Right. My number 6 is something that the first time I heard about this song was in the movie 10 with Dudley Moore, and one of my first ever crushes, obviously the lovely Bo Derek. It's Why Don't We Do It in the Road? He makes he's drunk and he sort of says, what kind of a song is that to grow up to, or something, is Why Don't We Do It in the Road? But this is one of those songs that, like you said earlier on, Bean, it's basically the same. It's a blues riff, and that's all he's singing is Why Don't We Do It in the Road, to this blues riff. And I'm sure it's just them just farting about, let's record that, and that's another track on the album. Now, I don't know if anybody else likes this song. I just find it a bit pointless.
I find it pointless as well, and I love it. Partly because I love Paul McCartney's rock voice, which you hear on this, and that's the voice you hear on "Oh Darling" is one of his great vocal performances of all time too, from Abbey Road. This song, look, there's nothing to it. It's just the same thing repeated. You're right. They're goofing around. They're just goofing around. I just find it fun. I don't find it objectionable at all. And is it their dirtiest song, would you say?
I would
Is it their sexiest song? Is that possible?
So. Yeah.
Could be.
I like it. How about you, Neil? What are your feelings on Why Don't We Do It on the Road?
I certainly don't skip the track. I really haven't given it a deep thought. I must enjoy it because it always stays on when I play through it.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, Bean, McCartney's voice is superb.
Killer.
Yeah. Isn't it? It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. And Lennon's Your Blues, by the way, is in the same vein as this song, which is just an anguished, mournful wail, basically. And I think that's fun to kind of hear them really like putting the Neil in the red.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you not, Pav, are you not a big fan of the sort of more rockier Beatles songs?
No, I love the original Revolution and other songs that I can't think of at the
back
moment.
in the USSR and things like that.
Helter Skelter.
Skelter.
Everybody's got something to hide except for me and my monkey. I mean, come on.
There are some great ones. It's not that I'm not averse to those kind of songs. There's certain songs. I mean, like I said, that one I just found pointless. And as much as Paul McCartney, I love Paul McCartney's like rock voice. I mean, "Live and Let Die" is one of the greatest, I think, vocals ever in a song, where he goes everywhere with that vocal. And again, is a great song, but I think there's just something about that one that just doesn't float my boat, I'm afraid.
I got to ask you guys a question. You may be too young to know the answer, but back when Capitol Records was trying to squeeze as many Beatles albums out as possible, during the duration of the band's group, they would take singles and pull tracks off albums and create albums that didn't exist over here where they were originally released. Even after the band broke up, they put out a Beatles Love Songs album. They put out a Beatles Live at the Hollywood Bowl album. These are hard to find now. I've got them on CD on Japanese import, but they never really officially re-released them, for the CD and vinyl market. Did they put out the rock and roll compilation here? The Beatles Rock and Roll or Rock and Roll Music, it might have been called. It was a double album set that went all the way from the beginning of their biggest rock records all the way to the end of songs like Back in the USSR and Helter Skelter and things like that. So it's putting out a Beatles album where you don't get any of the ballads and you don't get any of the weird stuff. You just get the balls out rockers. And it's a killer collection. And if they didn't make it here, it's a fun playlist to just recreate for yourself on your streaming service so that you've got that when you're in the mood for some really rockin' Beatles.
It sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. I don't suppose you know. Have you got that album? Have you?
Oh yeah. And it was a double album, and it has a silver color, a silver jacket that has them in their suits and their guitars and everything like that. It was just a killer compilation. Like I said, throughout their entire career of their most rocking songs, and it's really one of my favorite Beatles albums.
There you go. There you go. That'd be something. You'll have to send us what the track listing is.
Yeah.
That we can make a playlist of that. Okay then. Bean, you're number 5.
All right. This is the first one on my list. That's a big hit. I don't think you guys will object so much because it only showed the very beginnings of what would become our boys in the Fab Four. It came out 60 years ago, if my maths are correct.
Yay.
Maths are or maths is? Which way is correct?
Maths. If maths correct, say it like that.
Well, you need a verb. I'm sorry. I got to put in a verb. 60 years this October is when the first Beatles single came out, and it's Love Me Do. Now, there's nothing objectionable about Love Me Do, except it sounds like your grandkids could have written it, Pavo, because we all remember it's love me do. You know I love you. I'll always be true. So love me do.
That's my number 3, by the way.
Is it? Okay.
Really?
Yeah. And it's fine and it's cute and it's quaint and you hear it and it makes you feel good because you knew what was coming, but not because of what you were listening to.
I find that like those kind of songs are the ones that are untouchable, that they're indestructible and they should never be in anywhere near it where you say the word worst.
But we were forced to make a list. We've got to choose from what we have.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
When you listen to the later Beatles stuff and the more they advanced in their songwriting got on, that's when things like Love Me Do seems to me a lot weaker than what was to come, and that's why
Right.
it's ended up on my list. It's like being said, it literally love me do, and it's
But do you know how hard it is to write a simple song? A song that I think one of the hardest things to do when writing a song is to write a song that you think your grandchild could write. I've written songs before, and I don't know where they come from. I honestly don't know where they come from, because I'm not putting myself in the same bracket as Lennon and McCartney.
What I heard is I could have written most Beatles songs. That's what I heard. How about you, Neil?
Well, I wasn't saying it in so many words, but something as simple as that, and again, we've seen in the Get Back documentary how they are just plinking and plonking on the guitar or the piano, and all of a sudden, Get Back starts, and you think, Jesus, it was that simple. Something like Love Me Do, which that was a true Lennon and McCartney song, I think, wasn't it? They both wrote it opposite each other with guitars.
And I would add, please me to that list. I would add From Me to You to that list. They're fine, but they're young songwriters who are writing very simple songs at the time, and they're charming in their way. But in the total oeuvre, if that's how you pronounce that word, of the Beatles, you can't put them anywhere near the top for sure.
But that, to me, I don't know how old they would have been, early 20s when they wrote those.
Very early, yeah.
That's incredible that they're writing songs like that at that particular age. I mean, it's just...
Is it, though? I mean, George Michael wrote Careless Whisper at 17.
Yeah, but then...
Which is so much more advanced, you know what I mean? Honestly, which is miles better than Love Me Do, I think.
But do you not think we don't get songwriting like that unless there are people like the Beatles and the Stones in the 60s and 70s? Or do you think that they would have been, George Michael would have been there no matter what?
I think it's impossible for us to even imagine the musical landscape if the Beatles hadn't existed. It would, I think it would look very, I mean, look, did you guys see the movie Yesterday? We know, right? There's no Oasis, I'll tell you that.
Exactly. And that's what I think, is that everyone would probably still be recording just 4 tracks and, no overdubbing and stuff like that if it hadn't been for the Beatles. But again, we will never know. That's the thing. We'll never know. Right, Neil, your number 5 was Dig It.
It was.
So my number 5 is Tomorrow Never Knows from Revolver. Now, this is, I can take or leave when they start getting really trippy and really psychedelic. I love Strawberry Fields. I love Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. This is one of the ones that I just don't like at all. So that was one of the ones that was quite easy to go into my top 10. Now, I don't know what you guys think about trippy and psychedelic music, but
I think I, for the most part, like it. I don't need them all. Tomorrow Never Knows is pretty good. I like Rain more, I think, which I think was the first record that ever had backwards vocals on it. I like Within You, Without You, which is also in that same super psychedelic vein. That's where George brings out the sitar and stuff. I like the psychedelic side of the Beatles. Tomorrow Never Knows, probably not one of my favorite of that collection, but I like it.
Yeah, it's not too... But I find you have to be in a mood to listen to the psychedelic sort of thing. It's not one of those ones, if you were having a playlist for the day and it came on and you're not in the mood to listen to something like that, like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and things like that, which are absolute classics, you may not appreciate it if you're not sat in that mood to take it in, to absorb it, because music is to be absorbed, isn't it? So do
you think I was just in a funny mood when I
well, not necessarily, but maybe try it again when you're in your happy place or psychedelic place. Take some mushrooms, pal.
I got told today, as said, talking to a friend at work, and they said, "Yeah, you've got the kind of character you should never try weed, Pav." He said, "You should just never try it because you just be too anxious and too paranoid." So there you go. I've been told.
Oh.
Well, swap it out for mushrooms, like Neil said.
Okay. Maybe we'll do them together, Bean. I mean, you keep saying you're going to do them, so maybe we'll do.
I've always wanted to, man.
I just do a live podcast. And
I used to ask, we used to have a doctor on our show very often. His name was Dr. Drew Pinsky. He's very well known in the United States, hosts a lot of TV shows. I always tried to get him to run for Surgeon General. I thought he would have been great for the health of America if he had. But I always used to try to get him to give me permission, if you will, to do some psychedelic mushrooms, because I said millions of people have done it and have great experiences, and they learn things and see things that they never would have otherwise. And he said, look, yeah, you can. there's always a chance that it will do permanent damage. A chance. It may be remote, doesn't happen to most people, but there are people who do one trip and it ruins them, right?
Yeah.
And I can't roll the dice and take that risk that it would. I mean, I'm so tempted to, but I just feel maybe when I'm much older, because I plan to live to be 100 at least, right? Maybe like at 100, I'll go, all right, now it's kind of safe. I'll try it. And
Well,
maybe that's what you need to do to enjoy Tomorrow Never Knows, Bob.
Yeah, you might have to, Pab. Famously, they do it like in places like Thailand and that, mushroom pizzas, magic mushroom pizzas.
Oh.
So that might be the way to do it, Pab.
Okay. All right.
You know,
God,
put
that
the
would be
music on,
dangerous.
eat the
I'll
pizza.
overdose when I'll overdose on magic mushroom pizzas.
I'm not worried about overdosing. I'm worried about screwing up my brain to the point where like I now am a vegetable, you know, and I know that the chances are extremely remote, but it's a gamble. Anytime you take any kind of serious drug, it's a gamble.
Yeah.
And you're working hard at doing that anyway by banging your head every 5 minutes, Bean, aren't
Right.
you? So,
It's already a miracle I'm still alive. Yes.
right. Number 4. So that was my number 5. Bean's number 4 was Maxwell's Silver Hammer.
Correct.
So Neil, your number 4, please.
So it's another novelty song, and it features quite heavily on the Get Back documentary. It's Octopus's Garden, Ringo Starr. Now, I appreciate that. I love the way they all chip in and help Ringo write this song and bring it through. But it is still just a kid's song, isn't it? It literally is something you would have on a child's sort of story time at night. Put Octopus's Garden on to finish before you put them to bed. I don't know. It just resonates that way to me. It just seems very, very childish for somebody so grown up at their age that they were by that band.
I agree with you. It's very slight. Obviously, it is a kid's song. I think you could put this in the bin with Yellow Submarine, but they're children's songs. If we judge them as children's songs, they're great. If we judge them as adult songs, they are lacking, I think. So it depends on what standard you're going to put on Octopus's Garden. I think it's cute how hard they tried to give Ringo songs to sing, though.
They did.
They didn't need to. Yeah. And he didn't get many, but that's one that I think he did a nice job on it. I think it's a cute song, but you're right. It's not for us. It's not for us. It's for the kids.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not you guys thought the same, that when we said we're going to do the worst Beatles songs, that the majority would be Ringo songs, or there'd be quite a few Ringo songs in there. But for what they are, they're beautiful songs. You know, they are great songs. He's not the greatest singer, but then that's not really what he's there for, is it?
Yeah, but he had a killer solo career in the 70s too. I mean, he had a lot of help, but he really had good choice of material and sang the hell out of those songs for sure. He's a talented guy. I mean, I think we would look at Ringo Starr as a great musician if he hadn't been in the Beatles, and you have to compare him to what his teammates accomplished, right?
Exactly. I completely agree. Yeah. Okay, so that's your number 4 then, Neil. My number 4 is from the Magical Mystery Tour. It's Baby You're a Rich Man. The Magical Mystery Tour album is one album that I haven't really spent a lot of time listening to.
I think it's the weakest of all the albums. I do.
Yeah. And that song is one of those songs, again, that it feels like it's going to go into a direction and become a great song, but it just seems to just sort of stick on the same road. It doesn't seem to go off and do anything. And I think that's the reason, is like you start listening to it, you think, right, this is going to be a bit of a rocker, this is going to be a bit of a bop. And it just doesn't do anything. It doesn't turn into this classic Beatles song. And I don't know whether it's just it was where they were at that particular time, the decisions they were making with the whole Magical Mystery Tour
and the
project, if you like, and the drugs. But yeah, that's my
I genuinely don't like the Magical Mystery Tour film or whatever special. I find it too bizarre for me.
Yellow Submarine 2, by the way.
Yeah, it's another one.
Has aged so poorly.
Yeah, I
think.
Yeah, and it just, I don't know. Yeah.
Help, for that matter, I don't think the Help movie is very good. It has a few good scenes, but I don't think the Help film is very good. Hard Day's Night is one of the greatest movies, period, of all time, music or otherwise. Genius, brilliant. The rest of them, I don't think. I mean, I think they fell off quite a bit in quality.
There was no creative control, I think. I think they were just left to do what they wanted to do. They were that big. So,
and let's remember for Yellow Submarine, the film, that's not even their voices. They hired people to sound like them. That's how uninvolved they were.
Yeah, and wasn't it right that the first version of Lord of the Rings, the rotoscoped version,
they were going to do it?
The
yeah,
Beatles were going to be
the Beatles, the Hobbits.
The Hobbits. Yeah, that would have been something worth watching. I tell you.
Yeah.
That would have been really good. But because that was a massive flop, wasn't it? I think didn't they show that on Boxing Day on BBC One? The original
the
Magical Mystery Tour, and it just absolutely bombed.
And had very few repeats after that. And I still don't think it's available. I don't think you can stream it now or DVD it or anything like that. I think it's fairly well hidden. By the way, since we're talking about all things Beatles, did you guys catch the Ron Howard documentary for a couple of years ago called 8 Days a Week?
Yes.
Killer, right?
Absolutely fantastic.
And for folks who don't know, this is a movie about their live shows from the very beginning to the very end, and a lot of footage. You think you've seen it all. Oh yeah, I've seen them running out on stage in San Francisco at Candlestick Park, but you haven't seen 80% of what's in this movie was footage that they uncovered that fans had, on a video recorder that they had sat on for 50 years that they sent in. And there was so much footage of them in places like Australia that I didn't even know they ever even went to. I mean, it was so eye-opening. And it really is a nice way to, along with the Hard Day's Night, to understand what Beatlemania was all about and how crazy and how frantic it was, both as being a fan at that time and also what it was like for those guys as their bubble just got smaller and smaller and smaller, the more popular they got. Brilliant film, though.
Yeah, it must have been so frustrating to want to play live to your fans and not even being able to. I mean, I think Ringo Starr said he was just watching the other people in the band because he couldn't hear what was being played.
Right.
And to want to be performers and to play to your fans and not. I mean, the kind of technology that was there at Shea Stadium, didn't they go through the tannoy system of the PA system of the actual
that's all they did. They didn't even set up speakers. They literally just went through the public address system that they used to use to announce who was batting next. It was just completely unprepared for a show like that.
Absolutely.
But it does, you're right, Pav, it does make you understand why they had to get off the road, because there was just no return for them. They weren't getting anything out of going out there and doing a show that nobody could hear.
Yeah. I do find things like that particular documentary, and again, Get Back, with particular people like that, and anybody that's, I'm going to use the I word, Neil, anybody that's iconic, when you start seeing them as human beings, it makes you realize that they are human beings. I don't know if that makes sense. Because when you see these people that are just, like you see every Beatles album cover is iconic, but then when you see them just talking about normal things or messing around in a studio, you think, my God, they weren't legends. They were just normal people that just that just talked about normal things. And I can always remember the footage of John Lennon, I think at the door of one of his mansions, and there was a guy there that had been walking for weeks to go and see him and was sort of saying, yeah, but your lyrics mean this, man, and your lyrics mean that. And he was going, no, I just made them up. I made these lyrics up. They're not about me. They're not about you. They're just lyrics that I made up in a studio. And the poor guy was crestfallen, like every word meant something to him, and he's just saying, "No, I made them up. It's all bullshit."
Yeah,
I felt really sorry. Think, oh my God, these guys are put on pedestals.
Hey, look what poor Bob Dylan has been through for 60 years, right?
Yeah.
People are trying to make him out to be God with the lyrics that he's written. And he says the exact same thing, is they mean nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just making a record. That's all I'm doing.
Exactly. George Harrison's trying to write something and John Lennon's going, well, just put cauliflower in there. That's fine until you can get the word. Oh my God. Okay, that's number 4. So Bean, you're number 3, please.
Are you guys surprised how many different songs we have chosen for this list so far?
I really
not a lot of
repeat.
Have
more duplicates. I must admit.
Not a lot of repeat. Yeah. All right. When I wrote this list up this afternoon, because that's how I roll, is wait till the last possible minute to sit down and hammer it out. I think I remembered what this song was, and now that I look at the title, Blue Jay Way, I'm not sure I remember anything about it. It's from Magical Mystery Tour. It's another one in the George Harrison Indian drug sitar type songs. I think the lyrics are like, please don't be long, please don't be long, please. It's just one of those, just doesn't go anywhere, doesn't do anything, completely inessential. I don't know what it means. I don't need it. It's my number 3, Blue Jay Way.
Blue Jay Way. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember it. I'm trying to really remember it.
See what I mean? It's so forgettable. It's a weak track on their weakest album, Magical Mystery Tour.
Yeah, I will say some more about this a little bit later on.
All right.
Will you now?
I will, yes. It kind of gives away a little bit of a spoiler, but there you go.
All right.
Yeah. I won't
Neil,
say
sound
anymore.
familiar to you, Blue Jay Way, as you hear it there a little bit?
Oh, God. Oh, now I know it. Yeah, I've forgotten this one.
I listened to it this afternoon. I've already forgotten it.
Yeah. It's because we've just spoken about it. I really don't listen to the Magical Mystery Tour very much at all. Really don't put that album on. So, yeah. No, it's forgettable, isn't it? Instantly forgettable.
Okay, that's cool. That's Bean's number 3. Neil's number 3 was Love Me Do. Okay. Oh, it's Bean's number 5 anyway. Okay. My number 3, Bean mentioned it a little bit a while ago, is Within You, Without You. Is that right? Yeah, Within You from Sgt. Pepper. I just... The sitar shouldn't be... Well, it shouldn't be part of rock music.
How? You're wrong there. You're wrong there.
It's just... it's.
Then what are you going to do with Paint It Black? What are you going to do with that? You can take the sitar off that while we're at it? Come on.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. At least you're consistent.
It just... I don't like it. I can do without it. And he should have just used a mandolin or a... something else. So another. I'm trying to think.
So you hate Indians, is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing you hate the entire country of India.
You know what? I was trying to think of ways of saying this so it didn't sound like I hated that particular culture or everything. I love its food. Put it that way. I love Indian food.
Oh, this is not going to look good in print, Pablo. I'm telling you. You think this is funny on a podcast? Wait till you see it in court.
I'll tell you what. I'm not making this the clip that I'm going to put out to promo the episode. That's for sure. So I take it it's not in your guys' top 10 then. No,
it's not maybe my favorite song on Sgt. Pepper, but I love it on that album. I think it fits. Side 2, track 1. Yeah, I'm down for it.
It's never really phased me at all. And plus, your hatred of this sitar, that's ruined my birthday present for you.
To go along with the ukulele, were you going to start taking sitar lessons?
I've got a ukulele. I've got room for a ukulele.
But I thought it was the next step. I didn't want you to go to the banjo or anything like that.
Banjo. That was what I was trying to remember. The banjo.
I thought, no, a sitar. I could just see you cross-legged. Well, on the floor with your sitar.
Those years are gone, Neil.
Mushrooms.
Cross-legged.
There you go.
There you go. Okay.
What an evening that would be.
What an evening.
Please live stream that, Pavo.
Yeah, I was going to say, you'd be like Martin Sheen in the beginning of the Apocalypse Now in the room. Please video it, yeah.
By the way, I don't know if this is too specific, but I would listen to a top 10 of anything episode of the 10 best scenes in Apocalypse Now, because that is maybe my favorite movie ever. And it's so genius. Like, it'd be easy to pick 10 scenes. It's so good.
Yeah.
Easy.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there you go.
There'd be a lot of duplication in that one, I guess. So maybe that's not a great idea for an episode, but I would listen to the hell out of that episode.
Okay. Well, there's one for the... I'll just write that down. We'll have that for later on.
Now it makes me want to go and watch that again. Oh,
yeah.
My wife has put a moratorium on me being allowed to watch that because I have watched it so many times. And she also will not let me watch it. She expressly forbids me from watching it with the dogs in the room because she says it's too scary. And I'm like, I'm not sure the pugs get it. I'm not sure they're going to be wigged out by Marlon Brando. I think we're fine, but she made me promise.
I would have thought they'd have got hungry in that scene with the cow.
Yeah. I don't like that. Don't like that scene.
I can tell you that.
Have you watched it enough that you can recite it as the movie is going on?
I've never been that good at memorizing dialogue. It all sounds very familiar to me. I don't know if I could say it ahead of the actors, but God, that's a great movie. What a streak, by the way. I know we're way off topic, but Francis Ford Coppola to do The Godfather, do Apocalypse Now, do The Conversation, do The Godfather 2, all in like 4 years. It's just, I don't think anyone's ever had a hotter streak than that.
I think that's why he nearly had a breakdown and a heart attack, didn't it? Just because of the pressure of all that. Indeed. Right. Being your number 2.
All right, my number 2, like others on my list, is kind of representative of a number of other songs. I could have picked a number of other songs for this one that are all, I think, look, Abbey Road is a great album. It's a lot of people's favorite Beatles album. I honestly think that the medley, the Abbey Road medley, also known as the long one, is way overrated, way overhyped. People love that. I see Pablo's face here. I could have picked Sun King as being inessential. What's the point? Polythene Pam, don't need it. But the song that I chose to kind of represent how terrible most of the songs are in that medley is Mean Mr. Mustard. What the F, Mean Mr. Mustard. Now, I'm not going to discount the whole thing, the whole medley, because it closes out with Golden Slumbers and Carry That Weight, which is brilliant. Those two songs together is one of the greatest recordings of all of Beatles, right? But the rest of the medley, I think most of the songs are terrible. And I just chose Mean Mr. Mustard as being the worst of all of them. Am I way off base here? That's my number 2.
I mean, to be fair, when it comes to that, I thought that the Golden Slumbers...
Carry That Weight.
That is the bit that I love of that whole.
That's the best part, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, those songs I can take or leave those ones, but those last 3 bits of that particular.
But Mean Mr. Mustard.
I'm listening to the song now.
Yeah.
Hey, we're doing a show over here, Bob.
I'm sorry, I was getting into it. But yeah, I can understand that. There is a lot of throwaway stuff. Which, I mean, to be fair, Paul McCartney, even in his solo stuff, and Wings had a lot of throwaway songs, a lot of filler songs, amazing songs, but then a lot of filler songs to go with them.
Right. What's your thoughts on the Abbey Road medley, Neil?
Well, I love the side 2, as we would call it, isn't
right.
it? We put side 2 on, and away you go. It's one of the Beatles albums that I use to. Every night I'm a bit like Pavo. He listens to Carry On. I will listen to an album. And Abbey Road is always one of the albums, one time a week I will listen to, whether it be side 1 or side 2. And side 2 is quite often my favorite to go to. So I don't dislike any of the tracks on side 2.
What's Polythene Pam about? What's Mean Mr. Mustard about? Are they about anything, I guess I should say?
Well, probably not. Because
just words that sound good together in their minds.
Yeah, I think that's what they were doing, wasn't it? At that time, they were experimenting in all ways, and the words is what they were experimenting with as well. I mean, a lot of the songs, it's really hard to question what they're about when you hear them deep down, aren't they? It's like Pav said, they really are meaningless. When you literally listen to what the lyrics of it, they don't mean a thing.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Especially
there's
sometimes
a great book that was written actually in Cirencester, Revolution in the Head. I can't remember the author, which breaks down every song that the Beatles wrote and tries to give you a story behind what the lyrics are about. And I would highly recommend anybody listening to this, if they want to learn a little bit about the Beatles lyrics, not that it gives you great answers in all of them, because there isn't any answers.
No.
It's in there. Yeah, and written
but
in
again,
the
if you look
Library Cirencester.
If you look at the way that they write a lot of their songs, where they're getting the music down and then they're working out the melody, a lot of the time they'll try and find words that will fit that melody, as opposed to thinking, I want to say that, so I'm going to change the whole song to just get that line in. So a lot of it is, I mean, I think Springsteen does the same. Did you go to on Broadway to watch Springsteen?
I did. Yeah, I saw it.
And what was that like? Because I saw it I think it was on Netflix, wasn't it?
It was on Netflix, yeah. No, it was killer. I got really, really lucky. I was in New York City for something. I don't remember what. And I called my wife and I said, well, I can't believe this. I'm already in PJs at 7 p.m. And she said, you're in New York City. We lived in Seattle at the time, I think. She's like, go out and do something that you can't do here, right? And I said, well, I don't know. It's 7 o'clock already. You know me. I'm early to bed. And I can't remember which one of us brought it up that the Springsteen thing was happening, and she knows what a crazy Springsteen fan I am. So she said, just look. There may be tickets available. And there was one ticket available. I went on the website. It's already 7. The show starts at 8. There's one ticket available. So I bought the ticket. And now I got to figure out how to get cross town to get there and get a cab and the whole deal. And I just raced through it and just ran in the door practically as the lights went down. And I was sitting, there's a balcony, like in a lot of small theaters, there's a balcony that's kind of right on one side of the stage. So and I'm in the front row of that balcony, like just looking down on the stage. Springsteen was 20 feet away or something like that. And it's a great show.
Yeah.
As you know, you saw it on Netflix. It's a great
Yeah.
show where for folks who don't know, where he just tells all the stories and then leads into the songs that were written about that time in his life and everything like that. I mean, I'm a lyrics guy. I love hearing the stories behind the songs, which is why your Beatles book sounds great, Neil. And it was a really special evening. I'm so glad that Donna, the Viscountess, prompted me to not just make it an early night and get out and do something. It was fun. And he's back. He's back doing it again too.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he took some time off, and now he's, for pandemic, obviously, now he's back doing it. So people who are going to America, you may want to try to check it out and see it in person.
Oh, that'd be
Oh,
great.
I'd love to.
But the one thing about that is I love his lyrics, and I always think that that's him. But I think he even mentions it that, not all these songs are about me.
Of course, yeah.
And I was actually a bit crestfallen with that. I thought, oh my God, he's making it up. He can't be making it up. He's the boss. He's supposed to be living these songs.
What's your favorite Springsteen song?
Oh my God. The River is one.
The River is my favorite Springsteen song.
I was going to say, it would be up there
Are
for
we
me,
best
that
friends?
I think so.
What was yours, Neil?
one. That would be up there for me.
Be
as
up there for
well.
you too, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite Springsteen album too, is The River.
I actually think Tunnel of Love is my favorite Springsteen album.
Oh, now you're an odd man out on that. I think.
I know, but I think it's just there's a few just heartbreaking songs on that album.
There are.
But I don't think there's anybody that touches Springsteen live. I just don't think there is.
I agree.
I mean, I saw him back in the 80s for the it was the Amnesty tour when it was no, it wasn't McCartney. It was Peter Gabriel.
Right, Tracy
Springsteen,
Chapman,
Tracy
Peter
Chapman,
Gabriel, Tracy. Yeah,
Sting.
right. I saw that too. Yeah.
And I wasn't a massive Springsteen fan at that time, and I couldn't understand because he was headlining it. And when he came out, everybody was booing him. And I was with my mate, and I was going, "Why is everybody booing? He's supposed to be really good." But they were all going, "Bruce."
Right.
I didn't
Takes some getting used to. Yes.
But then from that day, I was like, I got to see him live, and I haven't yet. So I'm hoping he'll come to Britain again and
Maybe
tour.
bring that show to the West End for a few.
Wouldn't that be great?
It'd be lovely.
Oh, God, wouldn't that be great? Welcome to the Springsteen podcast, everybody. Neil, you're number 2.
So again, it's a child song. We've touched base on it. We've talked about the movie. It's Yellow Submarine. I'm afraid it is what it is. If I was to give somebody make a compilation of the greatest hits, I certainly wouldn't put that on for them.
It's got great sound effects in it.
It has. This is true.
Sounds like me in the bath. That's what it sounds like.
But yeah, I'm not even a fan of the movie. Like we said, I really am not. And like Bean said, it really hasn't aged at all well.
No.
Really hasn't aged well. But even the song, yeah, I can give that one a big miss. Big miss.
I have nothing to add. You summed it up beautifully.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. Although it isn't in my top 10, but yeah, you're absolutely right. My number 2 was Revolution 9. So we've already talked about that. So Bean, if you
nicely done. Sorry, that was a mistake. I hit a button. I did not mean to play anything. I apologize. Oh my God. So sorry.
What the hell was that?
It was. Remember a few weeks ago when we had the Eunice and we had the hurricane?
Yeah.
He was the plane spotter. He was the guy who was down at Heathrow and trying to encourage all the lads to land their plane. Here.
Yeah, nicely done.
That was him. And I don't know why I had that up, but I hit it by accident and I apologize.
I have to admit, though, Bean, I mean, it has been going really well. That nothing has gone wrong yet. So thank you very much for doing that because I was getting a bit worried.
I know. It had to be janky somehow, and at least it was my fault. So.
Had to be. So can you give us a countdown for your 10 to 2, please?
Number 10, the Beatles instrumental Flying. Number 9, not quite a song, Dig It. Number 8, Revolution. Number 9, also not a song. Number 7, the very creepy Run for Your Life. Number 6, Mr. Moonlight. Okay song, but a boring cover. They ran out of good ones to do. Number 5, just primitive Beatles, Love Me Do. Number 4, What the Hell, Maxwell's Silver Hammer. Number 3, George Harrison's Blue Jay Way. I don't remember a thing about it. We played some of it like 20 minutes ago, and I've already forgotten it. Mean Mr. Mustard, part of the Abbey Road medley, was my number 2.
Okay, Neil, your 10 to 2, please.
So at number 10, Long and Winding Road. Yes, sorry, Pav. Number 9, Maxwell Silver Hammer. Number 8, I Want to Hold Your Hand. Number 7, Strawberry Fields Forever. Number 6, Obla Dee, Obla Da. Number 5, Dig It. Number 4, Octopus's Garden. Number 3, Love Me Do. Number 2, Yellow Submarine.
Okay, and mine is number 10, Paperback Writer. Number 9, Taxman. Taxman, was that before or after the Batman TV series?
That would have been before, wouldn't it? I would have thought. Because
isn't
No, it was after. Because
Was it after?
Sergeant Pepper was 67, Batman
of
was
course
66.
it would have been. Yeah,
Yeah.
66, wasn't it?
So did they rip off the Batman theme tune then? Because they go Taxman, which is the same as Batman.
That's very interesting. Don't know.
I'll ask
Okay.
Paul when he comes round for tea.
Ask
There
Paul
you
next
go.
time he comes
Okay,
round for
yeah.
his Yorkshire puddings.
For his Marmite sandwich.
Yeah, number 8 for me was You Won't See Me. Number 7, Dear Prudence. 6, Why Don't We Do It in the Road. 5, Tomorrow Never Knows. 4, Baby You're a Rich Man. 3, Within You, Without You. And 2, Revolution 9. So, Bean, what is your number 1 worst Beatles song of all time?
This is going to be my most controversial opinion because it is another of their big hits. In fact, Pavo, you mentioned this song by title earlier today. And I also have a little bit of what Neil's talking about, which is maybe it's me and not them. It is a song that I never need to hear again because I've heard it a billion times. It's also more than 7 minutes long. And
You're
it's
not
so
gonna say it.
repetitive that when I hear the first second, I cannot turn the radio off fast enough. And it's a little song called Hey Jude.
Oh, my Lord.
I can understand where
Unbelievable.
Bean's coming from. I really can. When it
is
happens, it's music fatigue.
Na, 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 na. And then
Mind
you know
you-
what it says. And then you know what it says after that. Na 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 na. And then it just does that for another 4 minutes. I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah. And it feels like it because we did it at the close of one of our live shows for another podcast we did, and we sang out on that song. And boy, did it feel like an eternity.
But to be fair, that version, that cover version or karaoke version, whatever it was like the 7.5 minute long version.
Yeah.
So,
But that's
you
how
can't
long
get
the
it
song is.
shorter
That's the
than
whole
that,
song. You know, that's the record is over 7 minutes long. It doesn't need to be. I'm sure if I had only heard it a few times in my life, I would have no problem with it at all. But I've figured it out, and I've spent 4 years of my years here on Earth listening to Hey Jude. That's how long that song is, and that's how. That's why I can't do it anymore.
Although I do like it when they play it on the radio, you know, on the BBC radio, and if you listen carefully, you can still hear John Lennon go, "Fucking hell," which always, I think, when they're putting it on the BBC, I'm like, yes.
well, if we want an actual recreation of that, if we get Bean to say that, it'll sound just like John Lennon saying it.
Fucking hell.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh dear. But then again, if you're in a crowd watching Paul McCartney live and he does that,
I
there is
hope he
no-
doesn't. I know there's no show he won't do that and Let It Be. I have no time for Let It Be anymore. Even though it's a great song, I can't hear it anymore. I'm so burned out on Let It Be and Hey Jude. Those two songs, because when they do bring in Paul McCartney for a charity event, he's raising money for something, a big cause or something, he always does those two songs. And I'm like,
Yeah.
anything else, Paul, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is controversial. I have
Music
to say.
fatigue, it's a horrible thing, really, because you know full well that the song's absolutely perfect and brilliant.
Right.
It's just you are absolutely
That's
drained
right.
of hearing
I admit it.
again.
Okay.
It happens.
I
to
shall
us all,
accept
Pav.
that. I shall
It
accept
happens
that.
to us
Okay. Neil, you're number 1.
So we've spoken about it quite a bit. The White Album is my favorite album, bar Revolution 9. I can't take it. I can't warm to it. I've listened to it. I've tried it. It's too experimental.
Not your fault. It's not a song.
No,
It's
exactly.
not a song.
No, it's not a song.
It's like listening to a guy tune a radio dial and just stopping every station and then listening for 2 seconds, then going on to the next thing for 8.5 minutes.
It is, and it's far too long. Who let them do that for 8.5 minutes? Like you said, they should have had a little bit of creative control. Somebody
surely
should have
at
reined
that
them in a
time
little bit.
they
Nobody
do
would
what they
have.
wanted, couldn't they?
Bit like Tarantino is now with his movies. You know, we need somebody just to say, "Come on, this doesn't need to be 3 hours. You could lose half an hour out of this and make it a tight movie like you used to do." And it's the same thing with probably happened with the Beatles. Nobody's brave enough to tell them.
I would have trusted the Beatles' instincts at that time too, because a lot of the things that they did, I'm sure there were people who didn't get it. didn't get what they were doing because
Yeah.
they were pushing boundaries all the time. So
Absolutely.
for all these people knew, they'd seen what they'd already done in the previous years. They thought, well, maybe this is the next big thing. They are the Beatles and I'm not. So I kind of understand why they let it fly.
Yeah. Well, putting it like that, absolutely.
I think that's exactly what it was. They were literally writing the book as they were going.
Right. They earned the right to do whatever they wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I would love to find somebody that likes that song though, and find out why they like it and what, without any drugs being involved. Because I would feel it's the only way you can enjoy that song is if you are.
Well, I would
high.
still like to experiment when you take your mushrooms, Pav. Try the record and tell us
There
what
you
you
go.
think.
I'll try and play my sitar to that record while I'm eating a magic mushroom pizza. How about that?
Yeah.
Live
While
on
filming
on YouTube.
You will go viral. You
You
will
will
never
for
have to
sure.
work again.
Well, no, because I'll be dead. That's probably
No,
why,
you
Neil.
won't. I mean, you might be mentally scarred for the rest of your
Oh,
life.
definitely.
You won't be dead.
Definitely. Okay, my number one was Bean's number 3, actually, and it's Blue Jay Way. I honestly have no idea what the hell is going on with this song. It's got nothing in it, and like I said, I mean, it's a George Harrison song. While My Guitar Gently Weeps is my favorite ever Beatles song. I don't think there's a song, it being my top 5 songs ever, not just Beatles songs. It's just an amazing song. So how that same person can write something like Blue Jay Way, I don't understand. I don't understand how you go from one end to the other end with songwriting. But again, they're the Beatles. They can do what they want as far as I'm
And
concerned.
I've forgotten it already.
Yeah. I just played it and I have no idea what it was that I was playing.
Maybe it erases your mind as you hear it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the maybe
We'll
that's
try
the
it.
sign of a great song, is that's what it does.
Put it over a tannoy in a supermarket and then see if anybody like registers it.
Yeah.
A social experiment.
I hear you can't Shazam it. That's how ephemeral it is.
Right, before we finish, we've got some honorable mentions. We have a Donna Baxter here. Said, even the worst Beatles songs are amazing. I Am the Walrus is nonsense and insanity, for example, but somehow still phenomenal. You will all have your work cut out for you, which is
was
absolutely right. Dawn Sardella Ayres said, agreed with Donna and said, not only that, but it inspired so many other things after it. Hell, even if we only had the reference from Simon and Garfunkel's Mrs. Robinson, that would be enough to solidify its reputation. She also goes on to say, I grew up suckling at the teat of the Beatles. Wow, imagine that. And my parents' favorite album was the White Album. That said, I've never been able to handle Wild Honey Pie and Revolution number 9. Even High, they're interesting once, but after that, grating to the point of being unlistenable. So there you go. Even High, you can't get into Revolution number 9. Gina Brennan says, my son is a huge Beatles fan. I'm curious if he agrees with any of these. Samantha Laura, can't wait to listen. Love the Beatles, but I could go the rest of my life never hearing Yellow Submarine again and be happy. And Christopher Rosa,
Neil, we just found you a love match right there in the comments.
Yes. Christopher Rosalez says, I know I'm in a minority, but I don't really care for the Beatles. So that's an avid listener there. Thank you very much. However, the worst song has to be Obla Di Obla Da.
Oh.
And Simon Townsend just said, when I'm 64. I'm assuming he's talking about the song, or when he's thinking about his future, maybe. I don't know.
Just a quote, maybe.
Just a quote, maybe. So, Bean,
Yes, sir.
the podcast, a cup of tea and a chat, which I am
That's correct.
Honorably wearing one of your beautiful bucket hats, is still going strong.
I think so. We're very lucky that we seem to have a very loyal following. Thousands of people. We're on Patreon again, like you are. It's called A Cup of Tea to Chat. If people want to check it out, I did a very long-running popular radio show in Los Angeles on a station there, and I have teamed up with a former colleague from those days to do this show. And we're having a blast. It's just the two of us. She's such a smart, funny woman. I think people will really, really like her if they've not heard Allie McKay yet. But yeah, please check us out. We do have a free version, a weekly sampler that's out wherever you get your podcast. And then if you like it and you want to hear more, we're doing 3 shows a week at patreon.com/Allie and Bean. Thanks.
Indeed. We will put the links to the free version and the Patreon on the show notes. Obviously, everybody listening to our podcast will remember Ali from our Christmas episode, the Christmas movies episode, and how wonderful that was. I have to there's a couple of questions I need to ask you, because I was hoping to get you for the Christmas songs episode, because you, as we can see, anybody watching this on the YouTube, you have got thousands of CDs and albums. You've got a very extensive Christmas collection, haven't you?
I do. The CDs behind me right now are all Christmas music.
Oh, well, there you go.
No, that's not a joke. Those are the only ones that I moved with me to the UK from America.
Right.
All the rest
Right.
of my non-Christmas CDs are in storage. So yeah, this is all Christmas, and obviously I have thousands and thousands on my phone and on playlists. I listen to Christmas music year-round. It's my favorite genre of music, because it encompasses all genres. There's Christmas songs of every stripe. Is this your way of starting to prime the pump to invite me to come back for a Christmas songs episode?
Well, we did a Christmas songs episode
Good.
before.
I missed it. Oh, thank God.
But the thing I need to ask, and I did sort of question Ali on this, because she hadn't heard of Wizard, Shakin' Stevens, Slade.
Killer.
Did those Christmas songs not transport over to America? Because obviously in Britain, every year, I mean, they make £250,000, £500,000 a year.
Oh, I know. The Status Quo song makes more than any other song they ever did in a 50-year career. Yeah, their Christmas song is their biggest song ever. No, none of those songs made it in the United States. And you will once in a while occasionally hear them pop up on a little left of center radio station. But yeah, America is missing out on some of the greatest Christmas rockers of all time.
Right. And so is there songs, American Christmas songs, that never came over here then, that are sort of thought of the same way?
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Okay. Like, what ones could you think of on the top of your head? So I want to listen to some that, because obviously we listen to the same Christmas songs every year.
Yes. Well, that's my biggest pet peeve about Christmas songs, is that they've narrowed it down. Like they've done, like we talked about earlier, with radio stations that play 20 Beatles songs instead of 200, right? That's what they do with Christmas songs, is there's about 50 songs that they choose from, and then they leave out the rest. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I certainly will send you a list. Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. Wonderful. Go on then, Neil, if you would like to tell everybody how they can get in touch with us, and then we'll wind this up.
Okay, of course I will. So you can find us on all the social media places at Top 10 Pods. Give us a click, give us a like, give us a follow. Email us at top10pods@hotmail.com. Send us some ideas for what top 10s you'd like to hear. And then do please come and help support the podcast at patreon.com/top10pods, where you can get rewards such as our episodes super early, bonus episodes, behind the scenes, and even be a guest yourself, like the marvelous young Bean has been today. And check out all of our links via Linktree. You can find the link in the show notes. And please do come and subscribe and leave a rating and review wherever you get your podcast from.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you, Bean. It's been an absolute honor.
So much fun.
You.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you again to Jen Berg and to Janine Bender for being our new Patreon subscribers. That's it. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you. Thank you, Bean.
Thank you, Bean. And
thank you, Pavo. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you very much, everyone. And let's go start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ten.